Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, joined today by David Sereda. Wow, unbelievable background. David is a physicist, inventor, spiritual researcher, known for his work in frequency healing, based healing, Tesla technology, scalar energy, consciousness science. He blends quantum physics and metaphysical concepts to develop tools aimed at personal healing, consciousness expansion, and energy alignment. And more recently, he's been very much involved in disclosing 3I Atlas, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. David, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be here, Michael. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be in a new place, see a new face,
Well, that's great. We talked before the show, a few minutes before the show, and looking at your website and so forth. Stunning piece of work just by itself, and of course, you're a master at many different levels of consciousness and frequency, like we were just talking about. So, would you care to go a little bit deeper into the frequency conversation that you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, my theory, it's a good theory, is that frequency. We could start with the birth of the musical system, the modern musical scale, going back to Pythagoras and ancient Greece, and inventing the first monochord, the first single string instrument, and then the tetrachord, and then eventually they developed the harp, the kithara it was called. And the frequencies in a music scale, in arrangements, the arrangement of that is music. And with the birth of those frequencies coming into human consciousness, you can see a sudden leap in human creativity and evolution from the primitive, even architecturally. And you can see also, I did a huge case study on this, that once the Washington Monument is being erected, and the Washington Monument is a monopole antenna, kind of like this scepter right here that my company makes, and as the monument is being erected, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla are in the birth of the technology that's going to change the world. In fact, it was George Washington who has this spiritual vision of angels showing him the future of America, who really is the insider creator of the monument. And really, it is actually a fulfillment of Isaiah 19:19, which is that God says there'll be a temple to the Lord God in the land of Egypt and a pillar at the border thereof. And these pillars, which are obelisks in ancient Egypt, you calculate the frequency that a monopole will give off based on its height. So I went in to find the exact height of the Washington Monument, and I got really exact. I went to the National Park Service website and said, I need this down to the inch because I want to know its exact frequency that it's giving off. And the reason I wanted to know that is I found historically that within a 200-mile nautical radius of the monument, so it's giving off these waves, once it's plugged into the earth with its steel frame and its marble casing exterior, and at the very, very top at the pyramidion is an aluminum pyramidion. And in fact, if you look at your pyramid on the back of the $1 bill with the all-seeing eye above it, the slope angle on that pyramid is not the Great Pyramid. It's the slope angle of the Washington Monument, which is 72 degrees. So when I calculated the frequency coming off the monument, because I wanted to know why all the greatest inventions in the history of the world, they're suddenly cascading from the moment the frame is up. You've already got Tesla and Edison inventing. Of course, Edison invents the motion picture, the phonograph, direct current electricity. Tesla invents alternating current, remote control. The true father of radio is Tesla, Lodge, and Stone. And then you get into the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and Henry Ford, the production of the automobile. And then you get into Motorola, you get into the first internet technology, Bell Labs in New Jersey, all these inventions, like their inception points don't happen in California. They don't happen in Germany. They don't happen with some guy in Africa. They don't happen with some guy in India. They're all happening at inception around this frequencies that the monument is giving off. So I calculated it's an A note, and it's tuned to what is called the 432 perfect A note music scale, which we no longer use. We use A440. So 440 waves per second is a musical A note. So I became more interested in the power of frequency, and doing the calculations is actually quite easy. It's elementary physics. You just take the height of an antenna, a monopole, and the wavelength coming off of this staff or scepter. Jesus said in Mark 6:8 that the apostles had to have their staffs. He said, no money, no bread, nothing in just your staff. So he's putting absolute importance on this frequency tuning device. The wave that comes off a monopole is 4 times the height. So it's like a square. So you measure that based on its height times 4. Say if I do that in inches, then I resolve the speed of light in inches, and the speed of light in inches divided by the square is the frequency. And then I take that frequency and I divide it by a musical octave a bunch of times, which is 2. You divide it by 2, divide by 2. And then I met with the Washington Monument a frequency of 432 hertz. And I go, so that means every one of the octaves that the monument is putting out are all perfect A notes. So why is that? You have to ask yourself, why is frequency so powerful? And so when we ask that question and we start exposing ourselves to harmonic frequencies, we start to see how it causes, and like when I was a kid growing up in the 60s, you had the big antenna on the back of the car, on the back of the station wagon, and you're listening to a radio station, like maybe it's, AM means amplitude modulation, FM means frequency modulated stations. That car and those frequencies, everyone in the country who's tuning in to that station, listening to music or the news, we're all at the same frequency.
Yeah,
Our
and
skeleton is all vibrating at the same frequency. So in a way, we were in this symbiotic resonance together when radio stations like that, which there's less and less of today because we use the internet today, were causing the human nervous system to vibrate at these frequencies. And that was causing an evolution in our consciousness. And so that's where I start.
Wow. Unbelievable. So I was looking through some of your information, and just before we came on, we talked about how you're in communication with your deceased wife, and the communication is unbelievable. And she gave you like a number to look up, and it related to the pyramids and probably what we're seeing right now with 3-Eye Atlas. So
it's all about that.
Yeah.
It was actually the Admiral Tim Gallaudet. I saw an interview with him on the UAP discussion with Lieutenant Ryan Graves, who is this, fighter pilot in the Atlantic coast who and his buddies were chasing these cube with a sphere interfaced UFO UAPs on the Atlantic coast. And in his interview with Admiral Gallaudet was saying we need to also look in the near-death experience to really understand what's going on. I'm going to show you. I'll just do a share screen with my calculator what my wife did, because my wife dies August 9th, 2021. She was just under 42 years old, and the mother of our 2 daughters. So from the day she dies, August 9th, 591 days later, she calls out my name like an opera singer. And my wife was a trained opera singer and jazz singer, Crystal and Jaco Sereda.
Beautiful.
So I see this number, never seen this number before in my life, but when you see what it can do, it's going to blow your mind. I divide it by the golden ratio, which is a ratio we find in the human brain, the Fibonacci spiral that spirals out of our hairlines, In fact, the ratio of my fingertips to my wrist to my elbow is pretty much 1 to the golden ratio.
Right.
We see it in plants. We see it in the spiral and Milky Way galaxies and seashells. Like if you look at a snail, those are all golden ratio spirals. So that's all I'm doing is taking her number and divide it by 1.618033987. I'm going to do this repeatedly. And when I do it once, that is the exact 99.999% sidereal orbit for Earth, meaning it takes that many days to go around the sun. I was so stunned when I saw this. I said, my wife is 1 to the golden ratio from Earth, which means that's where heaven is, because nobody knows where Jesus went when the 11 apostles saw him on his ascension day, 39 or 40 days after Easter, going up into the sky. Like, I was a skydiver, and I trained at Edwards Air Force Base for high altitude skydiving. So a human body cannot breathe above 15,000 feet. In fact, you can't breathe much 15,000 feet. So Jesus is physical. He's going. Where is he going? And where can you breathe? Like, nobody even asked this question.
Yeah.
So this number is so stunning. I'm going to do it again. So when I hit equals, it's just going to hit divided by the golden ratio again. That's the orbit of Venus, like accurate to because Venus orbits the sun in 225 days.
Yep.
And I do it again, and I get a hypothetical orbit of 139.516 days. This number lines up perfectly with the ascension date of Jesus, starting at the new sun in a calendar year. And it also lines up perfectly with the miracle of the sun at Fatima, Portugal in 1917.
Yes.
Right? Because the first day at Fatima, Portugal, when the Mother Mary appears to these 3 children, is May the 13th, 1917. So you take May the 13th minus the 139 days, you're at December 25th, Christmas Day. So why is that? Because Christmas is 3 days after winter solstice, right? Which is the change of the seasons and the marking of a new year. So why is that? Well, I'm going to do it again. So it lines up with Jesus' Ascension Day. It actually lines up with the Buddha's birthday, and it also lines up with the miracle of the sun at Fatima. Now, the actual miracle of the sun at Fatima is October 13th, which is 2 orbits of planet 139, which shouldn't be there because astronomers today, and this is going to be important when we get to 3i Atlas, astronomers today believe that 100,000 people on a hillside in Portugal in 1917 all hallucinated this what appeared to be an annular ring style eclipse of the sun with an unknown body, because we know there was no lunar eclipse that day. And as far as astronomers know and believe, there's no other planets in the solar system. Well, they're wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong. So, and then I do it again, and this is about 97% accurate to the orbit of Mercury, which is 87.9 days to go around the sun. Now, if I keep going, I get a hypothetical orbit of 53.29 days. This is almost exactly 33, which is the age of Jesus and Alexander the Great. And this number here is a planet called Vulcan. So if anybody's watched Star Trek and they know Spock, he comes from planet Vulcan. Planet Vulcan was an observed planet inside the orbit of Mercury with an orbit of 20 days, rounded off to the nearest number. So I'm like, 98% accurate to the orbit of Vulcan. But when astronomers saw it at the Paris Observatory in the 19th century, it vanished. So we had a planet appearing and vanishing. And because it vanished, they knew it wasn't a sunspot. They said, well, it can't be real. But yet they observed it in telescopes in Colorado, in America. It was observed several times, and then it vanished. So when I keep going even further, this is the height of the Great Pyramid of Egypt to perfection by a factor of 100. So it means if I take that number times 100, that's the height of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. which is going to be important for us too with
Yes.
3i Atlas. Very important. So it's just a factor of 100, which means if I take this number times the golden ratio going out, it's just going to equal 100 orbits of all the planets, right? So when I take the 591 and I go out, I'm going to reach the outer planets as well, to percentages and degrees of accuracy. So how did
Stunning. Oh
a
my
deceased person do this, right? Like how did that happen? And that's where I start. So when 3i Atlas comes in, let me show you why this gets so personal to me with 3i Atlas. Because
I saw in one of your recent shows where you're aligning the pyramid with Jesus Ascension and Courtline and all. Oh, it's just stunning information. Wow.
Yeah, that's my angles project, and I
Yes.
can, I'm, whatever you bring up, we'll cover here today, because that's really important. So this is what the hyperdimensional, what I call the real solar system, looks like. And this is going to be quite stunning, because it's actually the poet Dante who wrote the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and the Paradiso. Was the first one who ever saw this. In his visions, in Dante's visions in the Paradiso, his beloved Beatrice dies of the influenza before he can even marry her. And he has a vision of Christ, Dante does, who says that she is your beloved, don't worry. And when she dies, he gets mad at Jesus, thinking, you made a mistake, she died. And he's like, no, just be patient. And later, when Dante completes his 9 levels of hell and 9 levels of purgation, which is purging and cleansing, he comes to the 9 levels of paradise. And Beatrice appears, shining like the sun to him, to be his tour guide through each of the planets. And so when Dante goes with Beatrice from Earth to the moon, to Mercury, the Sun, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, at the time of Dante in the 14th century, we had not discovered Uranus and Neptune yet. But he describes them with different names, but he describes their coloring perfectly.
Wow.
Because they wouldn't be discovered until 18th, 19th century. So Dante is out here where my cursor is, just beyond Neptune, and Beatrice shows him 9 more planets of the angels heading back towards the sun.
Incredible.
My wife's formula gives me the orbits in Earth day time. So all these numbers you see are Earth day time. Here's my 591 right here, right? And so that's how many days it takes this hypothetical planet to go around the sun, which I just demonstrated. Now watch what happens when I bring in 3i Atlas. This is really going to get crazy, because 3i Atlas is headed 100% like a bullseye for 591. See, this is, I remember when this graphic first came out, I calculated using a ruler and ratio calculations, if Mars has an orbit of 686.98 days, where would 591 be? It would be inside the orbit of Mars, right here. And so 3i Atlas is 5 degrees above the ecliptic plane, so it would fly right over it, right over its orbit, its exact orbit.
Stunning.
And that's its bullseye. And at perihelion, which was the 29th of October, which we just had, and the 30th, right? Big news broke. But I calculated it would hit the center point October 23rd, which happens to be my 15-year-old daughter Alira's birthday, which is also quite stunning. But on the 19th of October here, when we had the huge internet outage that affected Amazon and hundreds of apps worldwide all day, happened when it hit here.
Oh my gosh. And
I think that's not a coincidence. On November 11th, it's going to be right around here on this, because it's basically holding this position for quite a while. So right away, I became interested. And then I did a calculation, which was, according to Avi Loeb, the lead Harvard astronomer who was telling the world there's a high probability that this is an alien spacecraft made out of nickel the size of Manhattan at the very least, the island of Manhattan.
12 miles, yeah.
And I know that's really far out. Like, he's a Harvard physicist, right? Like how do you say he's lost his mind? Well, if you look at his math, I'm going to show you something here that is based on his first hypothesis before I go. So I'm going to go to his page on Medium. I have a page on Medium where my more advanced articles are written. So we go to this news broke yesterday. This is just stunning. But his first, we'll do his news, and then I'll show you what's called the odds. So here we go. Avi Loeb's Medium page. This news broke yesterday. And the news that broke yesterday and the day before is that, according to data that's collected at perihelion, which is mean 3i Atlas is closest to the sun, it exhibited non-gravitational, which means not natural, acceleration, which means there has to be a technology behind it. And it was emitting more blue light than the sun, whereas comets will emit more reddish orange light at perihelion, which is reflective of the sun. But instead, it was emitting more blue light than the sun, which means it had its own energy signature. And this is the article. This article should have shocked the world when he published it 1 day ago. So on the 31st, it should have shocked the world, but the mainstream press didn't even seem to notice. So then what he does here is he calls for Congress, because this is where the story starts to get into what people call conspiracies, is because we shut down the US government October 1st. And I'll show you what that means. And we blocked images to the Mars HiRISE camera, which is literally the best camera in the solar system starting that day. And it is, I know cameras. I mean, I was a professional photographer and used to develop film in the old days. Mm-hmm. So let me show you what happens when you go to I'm going to click on the.
I love this the spiritual physics science connection. It's stunning. Very, very well done.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you can appreciate that, because I mean, when the older you get, and not necessarily because we're older, we want to know where we're going next, right? I mean, and to really start to look at evidence in near-death experiences starts to give people some sort of promise or hope that we know where we're going to go next. I don't know what's going on with my screen here, but I'm somehow zoomed in super huge on the screen here on our podcast. So I'm trying to find my trying to find out how that even happened. Okay, so there it is. There's my share screen. So share screen. Am I sharing screen right now or no?
No, not yet.
Okay, so let's go. What can I go to here? Because I'm trying to see what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you this next. Okay. This is really super advanced. This is a paper that came out just a few days ago. And in this paper, physicist Beatrice Villarreal is one of the lead physicists from Sweden on this project, but so are many world-renowned physicists, started to notice, and this is really evidence of my theory of hyperdimensional planets, that are in this golden ratio synchronicity to Earth's orbit and the orbits of the known planets, which would be an enormous breakthrough mathematically, because in the world of Galileo and Newton and many early mathematicians, to find the algorithm to the orbits of the planets has never been accomplished or resolved, which my wife's formula combined with my knowledge did. But what you're seeing on the screen here are images from the Palomar Observatory in San Diego, California, taken in the 1950s, of whole stars or planets with these blue circles. Can you see these blue circles where my cursor is?
Yep.
That were photographed, and only minutes later in the next photograph, they vanished, gone. And it took them quite a few years. And in this paper, they have documented a great number of cases where these planets or stars, we don't know what they are actually appearing and vanishing. It's taken a long time to come to this. So, I mean, for people who want to see the whole, presentation of that on my Medium page and where my articles are posted on that, you can. But basically, this should also be probably one of the biggest stories in the world now, because when you get into this kind of physics, you can explain. We have 3 cases now of hyperdimensional, meaning planets that appear in our solar system and vanish. We have Vulcan, we have the miracle of the sun at Fatima, and now we actually have 3i Atlas doing the same thing. So what I was going to show is how we shut down. Let me go to where 3i Atlas is right now. And you're going to see how this all played out. Because what I did is I mapped 3i Atlas as it was coming into the solar system. Every orbit of every planet it crossed lined up with a major religious, the most powerful religious states for Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and even the ancient Egyptians. Every planet it crosses, I mapped that. But what's more stunning is okay, here we go. I'm going to go to what happened on the 19th, 20th of October, right here. Can you see this article on my Medium page? I just want to make sure.
It's not coming up yet.
Okay, so I'm not sharing screen yet. That's because I don't know how to make this shrink down, but we are somehow.
Another thing that's incredible is the Economic Times of all journalist magazines basically said filmmaker and author David Sereda, who collaborated with MIT physicist Bogdan Maglik on nuclear fusion research, had detected unusual light emissions from the interstellar object 3i Atlas on October 13th, 2025. Sereda claimed that the pulses followed a Fibonacci sequence coinciding with the 108th anniversary of the miracle of the sun at Fatima. So stunning.
Well, that also happened. That's right. That also happened. And there's so much data here. I mean, in this particular article here so remember, they shut down the Mars High Rise camera October 1st. Guess what happened on October 1st? It was Yom Kippur, which is when 3i Atlas arrived at Mars. Perfectly timed. Yom Kippur is when Moses receives the second set of 10 commandment tablets, and the God of the Bible comes down. He's obviously on earth on Mount Sinai, and it became noted as the Day of Atonement of Sins for the Israelites, where in the Holy of Holies temple in Jerusalem, in Solomon's temple, the high priest enters 1 day per year to atone for the sins of the people. When Christ was crucified, a lightning bolt strikes the Holy of Holies and tears it open. and knocks the foundation pillars to the ground, signifying the tremendous importance of the Holy of Holies. So why is it, you'll see this, and so are you seeing my screen now with this article?
Yes. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why is it that when 3i Atlas hit the orbit of 591, with all the cameras turned down, I went to an older solar cam because 3i Atlas was pairing with the sun. And I went to the LASCO camera, which they didn't turn off because the good solar camera, the NASA SDO, Solar Dynamic Observatory, was turned off on Yom Kippur. The U.S. government shut down on Yom Kippur, day 1, October 1st. And the Mars HiRISE is still shut down as of October 1st, which is the best camera in the solar system. And you can see in this image here, up in the top right corner, I get this object. Now, this thing is huge. This thing can't be 3i Atlas. I'm proposing we're getting a glint off of 591 because this is where it would be. And to the right here is we see all this incredible structured geometry in this glint coming off of this. And due to mathematics, I can determine with the LASCO camera looking at the sun here and the coronagraph of the solar emissions that this is planetary in size, because 3i Atlas would be somewhere here, which would be a speck by comparison. And so what happens is I immediately take note of this enormous object, and then the European spacecraft called the ESA ExoMars releases images, which I screen grab, and these glints are what's coming off of what they're telling us is 3i Atlas. The problem is when I did mathematics on the size of the measurement from the Mars ESA, this thing is way too big to be 3i Atlas. And look at these geometries. Look at them.
Wow.
Like, that's no comet.
No.
And what ends up happening is these images get smeared in a fuzzball through image stacking and released on Avi Loeb's website, and we lose the geometric, figures of the glinting when they do that as a form of cover-up. So this is an example of that camera looking at Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. So Mercury, of course, is closer to the sun. Venus is right next to us. And if you look at the size scale of this, and you look at the size scale of what I'm talking about, I'm looking at something here, which is a planet. The problem is on the LASCO camera, C3, the object appears and then it vanishes in the next frame. You see in this frame, it's not there. So I thought NASA removed it, but they didn't. And then this huge thing comes streaking by, which shouldn't be there. And then the story gets more and more mysterious. So now I'm going to go back to the newest article I did on this, which is this one.
So when these stars and planets blink in and out, do you think they're moving in between different dimensions, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly just like the UAPs, UFOs are. They're jumping dimensions.
Nice. Okay.
Is what they're doing. So we live in a hyperdimensional solar system that has cycles, which is what the miracle of the sun at Fatima is, where they pop into our dimension and pop out. So 3i Atlas, remember, its bullseye is where I'm looking. So now we look at this new article here on my Medium blog, and I'm saying that the prerequisite to this article is you have to understand that we live in a hyperdimensional solar system with hyperdimensional visits by UAP UFOs. Vanishing and appearing stars is a prerequisite. I know the story. This is the link in the Astronomical Journal to this new paper that was just released on the Vanishing Star Project. You can see examples here of another one appearing and then vanishing. I mean, I think this, for sci-fi people, should be the most exciting story of the decade. This image here on the right in the gray is similar to the coronagraph style imaging of the sun by an amateur. And this yellow line shows us the trajectory of 3i Atlas, which just appears like a tiny little speck following this line of October dates, and the 20th being right where my arrow is here is where 3i Atlas would be, and my object is in the same synchronicity as it, but it shows a little bit higher in the frame. You see the object on the left is here. So it's way too big to be 3i Atlas. And it's what you would call a megastructure. And if 591 is a planetary sized object that's jumping in and out of dimensions, it is stunning. Remember, this is an ESA image, European Space Agency image, showing megastructure geometries. This is a link to the video where I got the screen grabs of it. This is a close-up. I mean, that should just shock the world right there. And then you can see here, my object again appears, and then in the next frame, it's gone. And then later, proving it's not an anomaly, it appears again. It actually appeared that day on the 20th of October. Remember, this is the date I predicted 3i Atlas would intersect the orbit of 591.
Wow.
And here it is up here. So it's appearing and disappearing. And in regular science, here I got it 2 frames in a row. Right, nice. In this frame, and I got it in this frame. Remember, if we were looking at Mars high-rise camera images, it's a gigapixel scale camera, whereas this old camera is only 1 megapixel. Although, see, look, now here it is. It's gone. The same day it's gone. And then again, going back to the trajectory, I'm right on target for the date for it to be paired with 3i Atlas. So it's all in perfect synchronicity to what I predicted. Now this article here, what are the mathematical odds of 3i Atlas pairing with 4 planets during its trajectory? And this pairing is, you see, here is 3i Atlas on the 3rd of October, 1 day after Yom Kippur ends. It in its closest position to Mars when the photography from the Mars high rise was supposed to begin. We're going to come back to this in a minute because we have a Congresswoman, Representative Paulina Luna, demanding that NASA release these images.
Oh, fantastic. Good for her.
Right? The odds mathematically in Mars' 687-day orbit of Atlas coming in and being paired with Mars is millions to 1 against it. But then it pairs again. This was Yom Kippur. Notice that 3i Atlas, Mars, and Mercury and the Sun are paired. And then here we actually add in our new comet K1 Atlas. Mercury, Mars, and Atlas are all paired. So it really knows what it's doing. And now here it is. This date is coming up November 3rd. This is 2 days. It's going to be paired with Venus, which is like a conjunction. You see, Venus has a 225-day orbit. So why isn't Venus here? Why isn't it over here? Why isn't it on the opposite side? Why is it paired? You see what I mean by pairing? And then on Christmas Day, 3i Atlas is going to be a great pyramid angle between Earth and 3i Atlas off its trajectory line. Now, this is huge news here. This is massive. And I'm about to reveal something just before Christmas. We should come back because I have proof of something, the most powerful position for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam that will prove that all 3 religions are tied to the Great Pyramid of Egypt. I'm going to prove it. I've already figured it out, and I have the graphics. I'm just not ready to tell the world yet because it's going to blow their minds. So that will explain why Atlas is at Great Pyramid. So that means if you're looking up the slope of the Great Pyramid at 51.853972 degrees between Earth, you'll reach 3i Atlas. Again, how does it know how to do this? But what this calculation shows is what are the odds? Now we've got Jupiter. It's going to pair with Jupiter on the 16th of March in the spring, which is Islam's night of power, which marks the day that the Archangel Gabriel appears to Muhammad and starts orating the first verses of the Quran. They celebrate it this spring on this date. How is that happening? And with Jupiter's 12-year orbit, just a shaving under 12 years, how did it pair with Jupiter? So I asked ChatGPT first to tell me what are the odds of these pairings occurring individually, and those numbers are cited here. Jupiter, one orbit is 0.0294%, right? See that?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I go back to Earth, it's 0.22%. So it's not even 1/4%. But the odds of all four of them pairing, you're not going to believe this number, is 2.7 trillionths of one.
Oh my God.
Do you know what that means? I mean, Avi Loeb didn't even figure this out because he only did the odds of the pairing of a single orbit with Jupiter. I'm saying, what are the odds of it going through the solar system at its trajectory and velocity so perfectly, and the timing of when it enters to do this is 2.7 trillionths of one.
Incredible.
That means we have the proof of we're dealing with something highly. In fact, I don't even, one of the questions I ask is how would a human do with a calculator and a physicist if I hypothetically said to the best astronomers in the world, tell me what date, what velocity, and what angle a comet naturally driven by gravitational forces would have to enter the solar system to intersect all of these positions in the pairing with the planets to happen. Could anybody do that before this ever occurred? And I guarantee the answer is no. They couldn't figure it out.
No way.
But supercomputers and AI can, which is why I use ChatGPT to do my calculation, because I knew what to ask it. But then if I ask it to do the next thing, which is even more impossible, which is wait you see how 3i Atlas pairs with all the planets on the religious dates, which I'll go over really quickly. How much time do we have left? Because I think we had an hour.
Yeah, definitely. You got time. We'll give you a little bit more time if you need it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like 1:45. So let me go to here. Proof of intelligence. Oh no, I got to show you this one. I got to show you this one first, because this one, okay, because 3i Atlas sends the same model that my wife sent, and it does it in its axial rotation, which means on its axis, spinning on its axis. This data came out again on Avi Loeb's site, and it does it by sending us one number. Can you see this? 3i Atlas sends the age of Methuselah. Can you see that? Okay. So what 3i Atlas does is it's rotating on its axis, right? And I had already calculated that 3i Atlas, Oumuamua, which was the first interstellar visitor of the three. 3i Atlas means third interstellar visitor. We had three of them. We had Oumuamua, then we had 21 Borisov, which nobody paid attention to, which means they're not comets. They're coming from beyond the solar system's perimeter where the Oort cloud is, which is where all the comets, basically originate. And I calculated the ratio at perihelion when all three of them were closest to the sun, and it was 1 to the golden ratio squared. And Avi Loeb didn't even notice this. But so then what I do is I take the rotational period of 3i Atlas, which is 16.16 hours plus or minus 0.01, and I convert it to minutes. When I converted to minutes, I was stunned at the number because it was 969 minutes, which is the age of Methuselah, the oldest living man in the Bible. And so then I took, again, I can use 16.15 hours times 60 equals 969 because that's within tolerance. And I can use exactly 16.16 hours, which is 969.6. And with that, I take that number because I know that number in my wife's hyperdimensional solar system model is right here. It's hyperdimensional planet, which is the age of Methuselah, divided by the golden ratio gives me 599 and a quarter instead of 591. Divided by the golden ratio again gives me 98.62% of the orbit of Earth. So divided by the golden ratio again gives me 98% of Venus, and divided by the golden ratio again, I get 141.46 instead of 139.5 for what I call angelic thrones. And divided by the golden ratio again, I actually get 99.38% accuracy for Mercury's orbit. And the outer planets, I've stated all my accuracies here. So 3i Atlas sent us the same message with a slight adjustment to my wife's model. And what I decided to do next was to put the two together, overlap her model, the Crystal Menchaca Sereda model, with the 3i Atlas model of the hyperdimensional solar system. This is my wife's model, and subtract the difference. And when I subtracted the difference, I got Fibonacci's famous numerical sequence for each planet.
Wow.
Which is 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. As the differential between them, which is super advanced and it's super mind-blowing and stunning. Because it's like, here's my hands. This is the Crystal Sereda model. This is what I call the Methuselah model sent by 3i Atlas as a number of minutes in its rotational model. And I fused them together, and then I subtract the differences of the numbers, and I'm left with Fibonacci's number sequence in the middle as a form of what we call in brainwave training binaural, meaning left-right brain synchronicities. If I put this as a frequency and this as a frequency together, the brain will interpret the overlapping as the Fibonacci sequence, with each number in the sequence attributed to each one of the planets, including the planets of the angels. That just utterly destroyed all chances of this just being random noise. The 3i Atlas, like Carl Sagan said, the famous astronomer in the 1970s, if we met an extraterrestrial civilization, they would communicate with us in the form of mathematics. So for me, as really a junior physicist, that would be considered really simple mathematics that a physicist who does these huge calculations on the chalkboard would overlook. But why is it, with my math being so simple, I know it may not be simple to some of the people in the audience, but I tell you, if I paid 100 people to follow me for a week, I guarantee you'd all walk away understanding this. You just spend a week with me, and you would actually have a great understanding of it, because all of the greatest mathematical formulas in physics, including Einstein's equals mc squared, are simple, elegant formulas. And Paul Dirac's formula that won him the Nobel Prize for the discovery of antimatter, which could explain this, these planets could be made of antimatter, is so simple it looks like a kid did it, and he won the Nobel Prize for it. I mean, it's ridiculous when you look at his formula that won him the Nobel Prize. I could actually show you that. So that means we live in a hyperdimensional universe. 3i Atlas is on cue. It's like the pointer going through the classroom and saying, look here, look here, look here, on these dates that match our most powerful religious holidays, which is the last thing I want to show you today. And this is here it is, proof of intelligence. Now I got to do share screen again. Pretty sure this is where I want to be. And
Yeah, the math is incredible on this. It's amazing how you're having communication, multidimensional communication with your former wife, and you have the spiritual connection with the religions and the mathematical physics connection with 3i Atlas. Wow, unbelievable.
Well, it's funny, you know, for me, when my wife died, I'm not satisfied with, you know, she's in heaven. I want to know where it is. And I'm so passionate about it. That's what is driving me.
Beautiful.
Is sorry, I'm not just going to be satisfied. I have to know where she is. Why did she build this simple mathematical? In fact, what happened to me, and show you this, after my wife died, I had to get a new credit card. And I didn't even notice this until my daughter wanted to make a purchase. I've actually canceled this card, but you know how you get a 3-digit security code in the back of your card?
Right.
Mine is 591.
Oh my God.
And this is after she died.
Wow.
Nobody would know what that number means except for me, because if this number appeared on my credit card before she called up my name, but I wouldn't know what to do with it, and I wouldn't even care.
Those synchronicities, I love them. They're telling us that we're on the right track. That's amazing.
Yeah. So here we go. Coming into the solar system really quick. I'm using the Sky Live, going back on the clock. 3i Atlas comes within Neptune's orbit on the Ascension Day for Jesus. June 13th is Orthodox Ascension in 2024, okay, which is on a lunar calendar. So that is truly remarkable. Okay, so then it comes within the orbit of here it is here, of the orbit of Uranus. Uranus, as the Greeks describe it, on May 6, 2024. That was last May 6th. Jesus' Ascension Day falls on May 6 in 1948 and 2027. The Buddha's birthday was May 6 in 2014, and May 1st, May 1 in 2025, and May 1 would still be within 3i Atlas crossing the orbit of Uranus. I'm going to do this quickly because it's, I mean, I could spend a lot of time on this because it's truly remarkable mathematically. So 3i Atlas comes within Jupiter's orbit on Jesus' Ascension window. June 13th is Jesus' Ascension Day in Eastern Orthodox. Buddha's Day of Enlightenment is June 13th in 2014. I mean, I could argue with people about lunar calendars, which takes quite a few hours to do. This is 3i Atlas comes within Saturn's orbit on the way in on Muhammad's night vision, which is his journey through the seven heavens, January 26th and 27th in 2025, right? So this is accurate to the year. Okay, so that's truly remarkable. Then it comes within the orbit of 16 Psyche, the most valuable asset in the solar system, on the 14th, 15th of August, which is the Mother Mary's Day of Ascension every year on the solar calendar. It's not on the lunar calendar. So 16 Psyche, again, is worth countless trillions of dollars because of all the precious metals on that dwarf planet asteroid, which is in the asteroid belt. And again, that is truly remarkable. Then it crosses, 3i Atlas comes at its closest position, which is October from Mars, October 2nd, 3rd, 2025, which is Yom Kippur, right? So we already noted the Yom Kippur alignment. Is the day of the government shutdown, is the day they turned off, they wouldn't let us see the images of it, which means they're afraid for us to see it. And then this is what happened on Yom Kippur when we see the alignment on October 1st. This is the day of the government shutdown. Do you think they didn't know this? I guarantee you they know this. It was all timed perfectly. And this is the side view, the 13th of October, which is when the flashes occurred, which is the anniversary of the miracle of the sun at Fatima. It came just inside the orbit of Mars. And then you come to the bullseye of 3i Atlas, which is my hyperdimensional planet 591, and which is what we're in the middle of right now. And then October 29th, 30th at perihelion, which is its closest to the sun, right? So it's now inside the orbit of 591. Muhammad's birthday in 2022 was October 29th, and Muhammad's birthday in 2020 was October 30th. You can't make this stuff up.
Wow.
So then it comes at Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I showed what happens on Christmas. It will be at Great Pyramid Angle. Now look what it does. This is from Avi Loeb's website. It basically flatlines in its closest position to Earth from late November all the way through the holidays. This is Christmas Day at the top of the blue line. Boxing Day, it just jettisons away, right? And there's a reason for that. It's not using any propulsion to do that, but it's just the way the physics work of Earth getting closer and Three Eye Atlas getting further. They kind of do this cat and mouse chase here. So how is it doing this?
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then this is Christmas Day when it's going to be a Great Pyramid Angle to Earth. And I've got a huge reveal just before Christmas on this news. And then we keep going on the way out. It will cross 16 Psyche again, January 7th, 8th, which is the Orthodox Christmas Day. And for the Eastern Orthodox Church. And Eastern Orthodox Christmas, again, is 3 days after winter perihelion, which is when Earth is closest to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So our Christmas, Western Christmas, is 3 days after winter solstice. So January 1st is actually right in the middle of the two dates for Eastern and Western Christmas, actually. It's right in the middle. So then we go to the first dates for the new year. Sorry, not Christmas. So now we go to it will cross Jupiter. It closest position to Jupiter is March 16th, which is when Congressman Paulina Luna is asking Congress to use the orbiter, the Juno spacecraft on Jupiter, to save its fuel because it's going to be so close. Look how long the orbit of Jupiter is. Again, we already showed the mathematical odds of the pairing being almost impossible unless this thing knew what it was doing. But that happens to be the night of power in the Swan, which is the correct date on the lunar calendar for 2026. This spring will be 2026 when this big crossing with Jupiter occurs. And then it crosses the orbit of Jupiter on March 25th, 26th, which are Easter dates in 1894, 1951, 2046. And Easter was also on March 26th, 1989, and 2076. So we're crossing Jupiter's orbit in the Easter window. And then we come to the, this is when it crosses Saturn. July 19th to the 22nd is Sirius heliacal rising, which is the way the ancient Egyptians calculated New Year's Day, is when Sirius rises on the eastern horizon on that date. Notice those are the dates for Apollo, the lunar landing in 1970. I think it was 79, right? So notice that we did that on Sirius heliacal rising, which are the kind of things that NASA does. It's also Mary Magdalene's feast day on the 22nd of July. So we're going to be right here at Saturn on that religious day. So it's marking, it's showing us actually all these harmonics, what I call the harmony of the order, are active during these religious dates. Three Eye Atlas intersects the orbit of Uranus May 24th, 2027, which is Buddha's birthday in 2026 on the lunar calendar. And Jesus' Ascension Day was May 26th in 2022. You always see the Buddha's birthday, Jesus' Ascension Day pairing on multiple years on the lunar calendar. And then Neptune, this is Neptune. Atlas will intersect the orbit of Neptune April 12th, 2028. That's how long it's going to get out to Neptune. So it's going to be in our solar system for a while, which is Easter will be on April 12th in the year 2020, 2026. And so there you go. So that shows you Now, when I ask ChatGPT to calculate the mathematical odds of this happening, the number is even more staggering.
I'm sure it is.
Of it being of what you call your mathematical odds. Like it's beyond ludicrous at that point.
So it's almost like it's being steered by intelligent life.
Well, I would have to say something akin to the supreme being of the galaxy.
Wow.
Actually. I mean, I would literally call it that.
With all the connections and timing and everything, it's got to be. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, it has to be an absolutely supreme. I mean, if it's AI that's doing it for an extraterrestrial civilization or race, could it figure it out? Well, one of the things about AI, just like, I mean, I know what calculations to ask ChatGPT. I just have to know what to ask it, and it will do the math correctly, right? So, but there's a difference between a human being trying to do this kind of math on their own with a calculator, right? So, and that's more difficult because you have to, like when I do math calculations on my own, which I do a lot, I do it 3 times to make sure before I go, public with something that I'm going to check it 3 times to make sure I'm getting the same number. And it's true, once in a while, I'll make a mistake and I'll go, how the heck did I make that mistake? Well, that's why I check it 3 times. But I have not seen chat make a mistake, right? Because I can check it.
And the propulsion of this, the way it moves and so forth, there doesn't seem to be any propulsion that we're having any understanding of as well.
Well, that's what we looked at yesterday when Loeb put this out. That he knew all along that at perihelion, its closest distance to the sun, we would either know if it's a comet or not if it shows unnatural acceleration, because the gravitational pull of the sun on 3i Atlas could perturb it, and so therefore you can see energetically if there's a change, and there was, and he posted it. You'd think the entire world, because all the conservative astronomers, look, he's already proven it's made out of manufactured nickel. He's already proved it has its own light. It's not just reflecting sunlight. It's emitting its own light, and he attributed that possibly to antimatter, actually. I know all about antimatter. It's the most powerful stuff. When it's created by mega lightning strikes on the Earth, it's immediately annihilated. And when it annihilates, it produces a gamma ray burst. And so it appears and disappears constantly on the Earth due to very powerful lightning strikes, which are driving the Tesla-Schumann resonance frequency. And therefore, it's unstable. But is it possible to exhibit a... try and find this website for you where the CERN particle accelerator, CERN antimatter Paul Dirac. I'm going to show you this page because this is really worth noting.
Cool.
So, because when antimatter was discovered, and if our planets that we're talking about are antimatter planets, which they could be, especially if there's a way to stabilize, it explains why they can't stay in our dimension very long, even if it's a stable form. And of course, the Vanishing Stars project that I presented demonstrates these whole planets or stars can disappear within 15 minutes.
Yep.
So this is the antimatter page on the CERN particle website. In 1928, British physicist Paul Dirac wrote down an equation. This is a really simple equation that combined quantum theory and special relativity to describe the behavior of an electron moving at relativistic speed. The equation which won him the Nobel Prize was x squared equals 4 can have two possible solutions. X is equal to 2 or x is equal to minus 2. That's it. And minus 2 would be antimatter. This simple equation, which I understand because I've actually studied antimatter and we photographed antimatter, led to the possibility, it's right here, but when antimatter come into contact with matter, they annihilate, disappearing in a flash of energy. So the Big Bang should have created equal amounts of matter and antimatter. So why is there far more matter than antimatter in the universe? But what this led to was the possibility that there could be antimatter persons, antimatter planets, antimatter stars, and antimatter galaxies. So that just became standard. And even though that was mathematically proven that there could be antimatter planets, stars, persons, and stars, and even a whole antimatter galaxy, that used to be written right here on the website. They took it freaking down because I've been quoting this. It's got to be here. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. No, sorry, it's right here. Okay. Dirac interpreted the equation to mean that for every particle there exists a corresponding antiparticle exactly matching the particle but with opposite charge. For example, for the electron, there should be an anti-electron or positron, and identical in every way but with a positive electric charge. The insight opened the possibility of entire galaxies and universes made of antimatter. And of course, galaxies are made of planets, stars, and people. So there you go. It's what I'm saying is not pie in the sky. It's real. And it's happening. And I believe on the LASCO camera, we may be looking at actual images of the 591 blinking in and blinking out as 3I Atlas intersected it. Exactly on the date on that camera that I predicted. I mean, you think I'd get the Nobel Prize, but I won't because these people... Here's another thing I can show you, which is, okay, first I'm going to show you before we close the European Space Agency's ExoMars video frames of 3I Atlas. You see, it's going right by. You see it up here?
Yep.
You see those geometries inside of it as it's going by. They've got this continuously running on the website. But then there's these other objects streaking by in some of the frames. And those are very, very interesting. That's a whole other subject that Loeb was actually asked. All I did is do screen grabs to capture those and blow them up. And you could see these megastructure geometries. And knowing the optics of the camera they're using, it's just simply way too big to really accept that that's 3I Atlas, that they're probably looking at something else. In fact, from those screen grabs, I'm looking at an image right now. From those screen grabs, a friend of mine in Connecticut, Erica, put this in her new iPhone, and she just did a little bit of contrast enhancements. This is what it looks like.
Wow.
I mean, does that look like a comet to you? That's from the European Space Agency. Just some contrast filters. So she's not actually changing the shape and the size and dimensions of it. She's just enhancing shadows. I mean, what you're looking at here from Erica's photo editing on it is probably why the whole government shut down so they could turn off the camera, because this is low resolution on the European Space Agency.
Good point.
Compared to what the high-rise camera should show. Let me show you the high-rise website just for noting for your viewers. I'm going to click on the high-rise camera, which even though Paulina Luna's letter, which is just yesterday or the day before, is calling for NASA to share the photos, Avi Loeb, Harvard astronomer, cannot get. So I'm just going to click on the high-rise camera right here. And it's been frozen since October 1st. See the last image. October 1st, 2025. This is the best camera in the solar system. It's far better than the Hubble. It's a gigapixel camera. Now, I check it every day. They just won't open it, even with her demanding, because, and if they do finally share us an image, they're probably going to smudge it. Probably going
distort
to give
it.
us, garbage is what they're going to give us.
So incredible stuff, David. Incredible review of what's going on out there. I have like a billion other questions. I'd love to. I'm following your work. It's absolutely incredible. I recommend everybody else follow you. Your website is davidsereda.co. DAVIDSEREDA.co. So
and also I want to note that Trump on perihelion, notice this, he called for the detonation and testing of atomic weapons at perihelion. And everybody thinks it has to do with Russia and China. Okay, so it has nothing to do with them. He's sending a signal at perihelion. Look at the bombs we have on the Earth. Don't mess with us. He's scared, guarantee. That's why he did it on that date, which was he made the announcement on the 29th of October. Now they realize it's unrealistic because we don't even have the trained staff and technology to do a below ground. In fact, Kennedy in 1963, August 5th, the anniversary of Hiroshima, signs the nuclear test ban treaty that we can't test above ground, we can't test in the ocean, and we can't test in space. But I think what Trump did in using the language and understanding of symbols, he shut down the government on Yom Kippur, turned off the cameras, and then he called for the testing of nuclear weapons at perihelion. So he's not talking to, I mean, Russia actually built the most powerful nuclear weapon. I know everything about bombs and nuclear weapon. Wow. In fact, I worked for Department of Defense as a defense contractor in Irvine, California with Magwitch, a company called High Energy Micro Devices. We were contracted out of Fort Belvoir in Virginia to build the most advanced weapons and contraband detection systems in the world using gamma rays. And I had to learn everything about bombs and contraband and how to find them. And I knew personally through him, Glenn Seaborg, who chaired the Atomic Energy Commission, authorizing all nuclear testing in Nevada under Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon. And we worked with MIT nuclear weapons physicists like Lawrence Lidsky. And I just got trained in everything nuclear. And I could tell you a lot, but I can tell you that even though the Tsar Bomba was the most powerful nuclear bomb, which the Russians stole, they stole the hydrogen bomb and they stole the atomic bomb using spies at Los Alamos. They didn't know how to do it on their own. They stole it. And of course they have good spies, and you know, we lost in the war of spies. I think the reason UFOs are more classified and have been more classified than the atomic bomb is because the secrecy failed at Los Alamos to protect the most valuable knowledge in the world. So yes, when the Russians stole the hydrogen bomb next, and they built a bigger one, Tsar Bomba, we already know they have the single most powerful nuclear weapon on Earth, even though we do as well. It's not likely that what Trump is saying is to scare off the Russians, is what I'm saying. And certainly not the Chinese. He does it on Yom Kippur. Sorry, he does it on perihelion October 29th or the 30th. So it hit the press on the 30th, but he does it on the 29th. So as a signature and as a symbol, he's got all the intel on 3i Atlas. We know it's alien technology, and we're scared. And so I don't think we have to be scared when you look at all the religious states. I don't think there's evidence that this is about something intervening in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with that, yeah.
I get that it's benevolent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean,
I'm looking forward to Christmas to see what it's going to do.
Very, very interesting times. Wow. This is one of the most magnificent things I've seen, David. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, and we'll have to do a follow-up. I'm really
Oh, I'd love to. Absolutely. Yeah. Please.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well,
have a good day.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.